Coming up on Evening Edition.
There it is. Go inside now.
A deadly tornado rips through Nashville overnight, leaving behind a path of destruction. Plus, how SIU is preparing for the coronavirus. And could a new amendment be added to the U.S. Constitution? Live from Southern Illinois University, you're watching River Region Evening Edition.
At least 22 people are dead and dozens more injured after devastating tornadoes cut a swath through a 145-mile stretch of central Tennessee. Good evening, I'm Jacob Gordon.
And I'm Michelle Mathis. The damage from the tornadoes is described as widespread, with over 40 buildings torn apart in Nashville alone. Nashville Mayor John Cooper says he will request assistance at both the state and federal levels. Daryl Forges is in Nashville as the survivors pick up the pieces.
The sun rising over Tennessee reveals the true extent of the damage.
A lot of homes that were there in these subdivisions that are totally wiped away. I mean, there's nothing left. You can't even tell a home was there before.
A deadly tornado ripped through Nashville overnight.
There it is. Go inside now.
Leaving people here just moments to respond.
It sounded like gunshots going off. We heard the windows blowing in.
So we're running down the hallway, the ceiling is just caving in, just debris everywhere.
As the hours passed, more and more deaths confirmed. Now search and rescue teams are working to locate anyone who might still be trapped.
We're just trying to map it out so that we can actually put more boots on the grounds to make sure that we're taking care of people that we may not even know that's injured or hurt.
Schools in the area are closed for the week, some because of damage, some because they're still being used as shelters. Polling locations in several counties have delayed Super Tuesday voting by 1 hour due to street closures and power outages.
We also want folks to exercise their rights and get out there and vote.
In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
Well, after a night of storms, the sunshine and warm spring temperatures return today.
Jordan Zimmerman is here now with the first look at weather. Jordan, what can we expect to see the rest of the evening?
Well, Jacob and Shay, we are going to be seeing lots of clouds, but not tonight. Tonight, we're going to be seeing a low of 45 degrees with mostly clear skies, but by morning, the clouds will be coming in. 44 degrees is going to be the temperature with partly cloudy skies, and by midday, temperature is going to be increasing to 57 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. Coming up my full forecast, though, we are going to be seeing some warmer temperatures, as well as some potential wind gusts, but I'll tell you all about that in my 5-day forecast.
All right, Jordan, thanks. The Jackson County Housing Authority is receiving federal funds to help improve the living conditions of its residents and enable families to move forward toward more self-sufficiency. The $174,000 comes through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Residence Opportunities and Self-Sufficiency Grant Program. The Jackson County Housing Authority has over 800 units in Carbondale, Murfreesboro, DeSoto, Elkville, Grand Tower, and Ava. Three Rivers College has canceled nearly all classes for the rest of the week due to a ransomware attack and is now working with a third party to deal with the issue. The attack of the form of malware that infects the computer and threatens to either publish information or block access to data until ransom is paid. This is the sixth organization in Missouri to deal with this problem within the last year. Radio station KNEO in Joplin, Missouri was attacked in August 2019. Truman Medical Center also hit in August of 2019. St. Francis Healthcare System in Cape Girardeau was attacked in November of 2019, and the Cass Regional Medical Center was attacked in February of this year. The Ava, Missouri School District was targeted in September of 2019, but the superintendent of Ava said the hackers didn't get any important information.
A Williamson County woman was resentenced after violating her probation. 22-year-old Kiana Taylor McKenzie of Carterville was on 30 months probation for a rollover crash in Carbondale that killed a juvenile in 2017. Taylor McKenzie pled guilty to a reckless homicide charge in 2018. Part of her probation included meeting with a probation officer and refraining from alcohol and cannabis use, which she violated. Taylor McKenzie has now been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison.
Tomorrow is the fourth annual SIU Day of Giving. The Day of Giving is a 24-hour event held on the first Wednesday of March to commemorate the university's Founders Day. Throughout the day, people are invited to make online donations to programs at SIU, and the donation drive starts at 6 a.m. tomorrow and continues until 6 a.m. on Thursday. For more information, you can head to siuf.org.
The Equal Rights Amendment is usually studied in history as a part of the 1970s and 1980s.
But the amendment has taken more strides to becoming law of the land. Evening Edition's Danny Connolly has an in-depth look at what it might mean for Southern Illinois.
Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. That's the text of the Equal Rights Amendment, which could very soon be the 29th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The Equal Rights Amendment originally passed through both chambers of Congress in 1972. 35 states proceeded to ratify the amendment before its deadline 11 years later, 3 states short of it being added to the U.S. Constitution. And in the past 3 years, Nevada, Illinois, and Virginia have all ratified the amendment, and many legal scholars are now wondering if it can be a part of the Constitution. Critics note that 5 states have rescinded the ratification, but lawyer and journalism professor Bill Freivogel says those arguments don't hold legal precedence.
I think in general, most lawyers think that when the states cannot rescind their ratifications, so those 5 states that rescinded their ratifications, probably those are not effective.
Another criticism is that the deadline for the amendment expired in 1983. The White House released a memo in January saying the ratification process needs to start over. However, the House of Representatives passed a bill last month renewing the deadline, sponsored by California Representative Jackie Speier. Freivogel says the ERA would help curb sex discrimination nationwide.
I think it will increase the amount of legal protection that both women and men have in situations where sexual stereotypes or old ways of doing things are discriminating against the opportunities that men or women have in today's society.
However, the faculty advisor to the Organization for Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies and Department Chair of Communication Studies, Sandy Pensineau-Conway, says it can only help so much.
Even if something is codified into law, doesn't mean it happens in practice. And so it is important to have laws that prevent or at least try to legislate anti-discrimination, but that doesn't happen always in practice.
Pensineau-Conway knows as one of the few female department chairs at SIU that gender discrimination exists here on campus.
It is a problem here on SIU campus, and that doesn't make our campus unique because it's a problem that exists both at the systemic level and also on the level of individual practices. And so it's not something unique to SIU. And at the same time, it certainly is something we need to pay more attention to on our campus.
The president of the Organization for Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies, Janine Young, says she experienced gender discrimination as she was infantilized for her looks while teaching at a different institution.
I was teaching, and so a lot of times when I would go into a classroom, especially because I look younger, people would say, well, aren't you just a student? Like, you're like a little girl. Sometimes I would walk out and people felt like they had to parent me or protect me because I was a child and needed that protection, as opposed to thinking of I'm a grown woman who has a degree to be able to teach.
Whether or not ERA passes, Illinois has other anti-discrimination legislation, like the Illinois Human Rights Act, which protects residents from employment, credit, and housing discrimination, and the newly introduced REACH Act, which mandates comprehensive sex education along with other topics like bullying, sexual violence, and discrimination. Pensineau-Conway knows that one's education is one of the greatest weapons against discrimination.
We have so much power to make the choices that we make individually, and it's really just not that hard to not discriminate against people, but it takes educating ourselves in order to figure out what that looks like.
For Evening Edition, I'm Danny Connolly.
Last month, Supreme Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg said the ERA ratification must be put on hold. Ginsburg, who is also a longtime supporter of the measure, says the ratification process needs to start over. Well, ahead here on Evening Edition, Super Tuesday contests were held today.
Plus, we talked to health officials about steps being taken to prevent the coronavirus. You're watching Evening Edition at 5.